It's Eric Trump. Yeah, that Eric Trump for the first time on the James Show. Nice to meet you, Eric. Thanks for being on the show.
James, great to be on.
All right, here's my first concern with the ICE raids. It's not the ICE raids themselves. It's not the result of them. It's the rhetoric surrounding them. Even after your dad got shot in the ear and had another attempt on his life, even after all of the ICE shootings, we had one here in Dallas, Alvarado, McAllen, elsewhere, even after Charlie Kirk got murdered in front of our own face, they still haven't backed down on the rhetoric. And I think they're just inciting more violence, Eric.
There's no question, James. There's no question there. It's the entire point of the book that I just put out. I just put out a book called Under Siege. You went to #1 on Amazon. It's killing it, and that's exactly it. Their entire platform, James, has been to go after the movement, to go after us as a family, to go after my father, to go after all of us, to debank us, to lay siege to the Conservative Party, to lay siege to everybody who has a loud voice. They've deplatformed us. They've debanked us. They've impeached us. They impeached my father twice. They've made up dirty dossiers. They've made up the Russia hoax. They've taken us off of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They've put more gag orders on us than we can possibly imagine. They indicted my father 91 times. I became the most subpoenaed person in American history. I mean, they took us off ballots. They, the ballots in Colorado and Maine. I mean, they weaponized every aspect of the DOJ, the FBI. They spied on campaigns. I mean, they've stopped at absolutely nothing. And then they tried to kill my father. They didn't just try and kill him in Butler. They tried to kill him at a golf course, 8 weeks later. They do everything that they can to incite violence, incite mob mentality, to lay siege, to try and wound, to try and bankrupt, to try and divide, to try and hurt, to try and play identity politics. It's the only thing that the Democratic Party is good at. Their policies suck. Pretty much, their entire platform stinks. But this is the game that they've played. They have nothing else. And honestly, fortunately for all of us, it hasn't worked with the American people. As violent and nasty as it's been, it hasn't worked with the American people who clearly aren't buying it. Hence the reason we had the victory that we had in November.
Well, is that true? You're the most subpoenaed person in American history? That might be hyperbole, but it sounds like it could be true.
No, I mean, listen, you tell me if anybody's ever gotten more than 112 subpoenas, and I'll tell you whether I'm not. I'm from what I understand, I'm the most subpoenaed person ever because they couldn't get to my father. That's a lot. It's the entire story of Under Siege. They couldn't get to my father in the executive branch. And so you know what they do? They subpoena me as the guy who runs the Trump organization and the guy who runs, his entire legacy, right? Everything that he had ever built prior to him getting into policy is on my shoulders. And so they couldn't get to him. So guess what they do? They subpoena me. They subpoena me over every email and, make our lives hell and again, try and cancel us in every way, shape or form. And, again, the good news, James, is we won. And I'm not just talking about us as a family. I'm talking about, everybody listening to us right now as a country. We're winning again. And, the mob mentality, did not win the day. America won.
Well, we're still being called Gestapo. In fact, when I get done with you and we get back to covering the reaction to the raids in Chicago and the ICE activity and the National Guard and everything, I'm going to play audio of them referring to the actions that your dad's taken as the Gestapo and it's his personal police force. And the confounding thing is they know that's not true. How can they just go out and say that with no consequences?
Because they say everything with no consequences. I mean, my sister's Jewish and they were calling us anti-Semitic, they were calling us fascist, all while they, dress up in black, grab a rifle, sit on the top of a, building on a college campus and shoot our friend in the neck. Right. I mean, they called my father and all of us sexist. Yet, isn't it really interesting? He's such a sexist that he's the only person who's ever had a campaign manager who was female and won with her. There's Kellyanne Conway. And they did it a second time with Susie Wiles. Right. I mean, as I said, they'd call you anti-Semitic, and yet there's no one that's ever done more for Israel than my father, right? I mean,
he's anti-immigrant. My favorite is he's anti-immigrant, but 2 of his 3 wives are immigrants.
Yeah, isn't that my mom wasn't born in the United States. The only difference is she came here legally and she learned the language and she paid taxes, and it's really so. I guess the point to your question is, how can they do it? Well, they've always played identity politics, and they've always said things that fundamentally aren't true. I mean, they've lied just about, everything. And the reality is Americans are really smart and America has picked up on it. There's only so many times you cry wolf before, people start, seeing your true colors and exactly what you are, and they stop believing you for what you are. And that's why the mainstream media in this country has all but vanished. And that's why independent voices are louder than they've ever been before and have the credibility of the American people. And that's why the whole game has changed Certainly in the last 10 years, but I would really say mainly in the last 18 months.
All right, we're talking with Eric Trump. Eric Trump. He's got a new book coming out called Under Siege next Tuesday, I believe. We're in the middle of a shutdown. Let me poke at you a little bit here, because I find this whole shutdown fight disappointing. You know they're going to fight you whatever you do. Why aren't we having more cuts in the budget that's coming from Team Red?
Yeah. Well, I think we are. I'm not sure if you saw that tweet a little while ago. It was, I think, last night or yesterday afternoon, where my father goes, "Thank you so much for giving me this unbelievable opportunity to get rid of all these worthless agencies that are doing absolutely nothing and are still being run by the Democrats and only help subvert democracy." I mean, look at what my father did with USAID. I mean, he literally cut an agency. This is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, it's billions of dollars a year, obviously. That not only was just handing out U.S. taxpayer, dollars to every worthless cause around the world, but also, funding so much of the anarchy, the 2020 riots. I mean, USAID was behind all of that. And so he's cutting the hell out of these agencies, but literally, I think he's using it as a gift right now to divert funding from so many, worthless programs that he wouldn't have otherwise been able to shut down, because now he gets to control exactly the purse strings and where mandatory spending goes.
All right. Well, I'm going to be a hard case on balancing the budget, but there's no doubt that even though the Republican budget is disappointing, the Democrat budget is just off their rocker. So, Eric, one of the reasons you're on, of course, you can talk about all the things that are going on in the news, but more importantly, you've got a book coming out next week, Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. So tell me about this book. What made you write this book and what's in it?
Well, listen, I wrote the book because I want everybody to know the siege. I want them to know what the fight that the Republican Party was under, the fight that every person probably listening to your show, because obviously you're fully in the right camp, was under, but also all the inside stories about the family, about the trials and tribulations, what they tried to do, how they tried to take us out, and the fact that good can prevail over evil, and that's exactly what we did. That's what we did as family. That's what we did as a country. That's what we did as a movement, and the benefit of everybody's loud voice, is as difficult as it was, as many arrows as every one of us took, we're winning right now. And so, I think we need to send a statement. I think we need to send a statement to the corrupt media, the corrupt establishment. And that's why this book went to #1 almost instantly on Amazon. I was so proud. I was always considered myself a builder, less a writer, and I put my heart and soul into it. I wrote every single word in this book, and as I said, it's going to ruffle some feathers. There's no question about it, but it instantly hit #1 in the charts, across the board. And go buy a copy, and let's send a great statement to everybody that tried to keep this movement down, and everybody who tried to torture all of us. And when I say all of us, I mean every single person listening today, because they went after all of us. They debanked us, they deplatformed us, they ignored us, they laughed at us, they mocked us, they certainly silenced us, they turned down the dials on social media. They tried to take away everybody's voice, and despite all of that, we won in the most resounding victory in American political history.
Eric Trump, what time frame does this cover? Because the things you talk about, you could start the clock back at like 2014, 2015 up to now, or is this just really focused on the last 5 years or so?
No, certainly. No, it goes all the way back to our youth, and being raised by my father, and the type of father he was, and how he got us to have an unbelievable work ethic and discipline and manners, and all the way through the real estate careers, and obviously The Apprentice, which you mentioned before, and then obviously kind of jumping into politics, not knowing what the hell we were doing. I mean, we literally ran against Hillary Clinton, and we didn't know what a delegate was, and we did it with heart and soul, and we did it with passion, and we did it because we were never afraid to stand on that stage. We were never afraid to go out there and be vocal. And it's a great story. And then they did everything they could to try and put us under that very siege that we were talking about. And again, we won, and we won in a spectacular.
Yeah, so we're talking with Eric Trump. He's got a new book out that drops next week. You can go ahead and pre-order it. Under Siege, My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. Eric, I think a lot of people who need to read this book wouldn't listen to anything you or I had to say. How do we get this message out, what you've been through, to people who wouldn't traditionally listen to our side of the aisle?
Well, honestly, buy in and send a copy. I mean, I'm this entire week I've been hearing about Comey. How dare you weaponize the justice system? First of all, it seems to me that he more than lied to your great senator from the state of Texas, Ted Cruz. But weaponize the justice system. I mean, they were raiding our homes. They were spying on our campaigns. They were making up paid for dirty dossiers by Hillary Clinton saying my father was doing unthinkable things. They were leaking to the FBI that we had servers, communicating with the Kremlin. They were taking us off of ballots. They were locking us in courtrooms. I mean, James, I probably spent $400 million to defend ourselves against BS, against nothing, against having never done anything wrong. And and then you look at Hunter Biden, right? Drugs, laptops from hell, all sorts of things. And, I mean, could you imagine if I was Hunter Biden, I would have been in jail for the rest of my life. And so I find the narrative so interesting and so humorous when they say you're weaponizing the Justice Department, because that's all the Biden administration did. I mean, when they sent 30, when I was the guy that got the call when 30 agents hit the gates at Mar-a-Lago and stormed into our property, demanding that we turn off all our security cameras, I spent a lot of time writing about it in the book. Give me a break. And that came at the direction of Merrick Garland. That came at the direction of Joe Biden. I don't want to hear from these people. So anybody who thinks that the system of justice is being weaponized, do me a favor, go buy a copy and send it to them. And I think they'll quickly realize the hell that they put us through because because they're corrupt as hell and they wanted to get 3 extra votes.
Well, Eric Trump, now that we're friends, I mean, I wouldn't mind getting a copy on the house if you don't mind. I mean, radio hosts we don't get paid a whole lot.
I will happily send you one, my friend.
All right, can I ask you a personal question here? Because I read somewhere that being raised by your mom, you and your brother speak Czech.
So my brother speaks Czech. For the longest time I understood it. I spent a lot of time over there when we were kids, and I think it's one of the reasons we turned out normal. I mean, we might have been growing up in skyscrapers in New York City, right, and kind of living in these opulent places. At the same time, we were spending 3 months a year in a communist country where they didn't really put up with spoiled kid BS. And I think it's one of the things that grounded us, a lot. And it's one of the best things that's ever happened to us in our lives.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, I was wondering if maybe you and your brother could kind of have like a secret language with other people in the room can't understand you. Because me and my wife speak Spanish and we haven't taught our kids because we like having our own little language that our kids can't understand.
So you can plot against your children. I need to do that with my wife. It's that come in handy from time to time.
Yeah, well, we did it too much, and now my oldest is learning, and we kind of have to stop there. But hey, I look forward to the book. This is Eric Trump. The book is Under Siege: My Family's Fight to Save Our Nation. It's going to have all kinds of good behind-the-scenes stories and info that you're never going to hear from the outside world. So, Eric Trump, I really appreciate the time being on WBAP, sir.
James, great to be on.
The James Show Podcast.